Welcome to COIQ, a first-of-its-kind video program about health innovators, early adopters, and influencers, and their stories about riding the roller coaster of healthcare innovation. I'm your host, Dr. Roxy, founder of Legacy DNA Marketing Group, and it's time to raise our COIQ. On today's show, how Jeff Gosser turned his healthcare innovation into what Amazon Health considers one of the top 60 life science and healthcare mid-market companies in the country. Jeff, the innovator behind DearWalk, is going to turn everything upside down that we think we know about the healthcare commercialization process. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks for having me, Roxy.
Thank you. So let's start off the conversation today by telling us, our audience, a little bit about your background and what you do.
So I've been in healthcare for 40 years. I'm a CPA by training. I got my first job as an auditor or CPA and audited the USF medical schools, and actually got involved. Our firm had as the client, our clients was the guys that invented Gatorade. So the doctor that invented Gatorade, I actually used to do his tax return, and I became the auditor of all these dialysis clinics. And I kind of got the entrepreneurial bug from doing his tax returns and seeing how much money he got from the UA Gatorade Trust every year, and is what it was called. I can still see it, and really, got involved as a CFO of dialysis clinics. Had a big job opportunity when I was 23. I thought that was going to be sort of a path I would take, and then my chance to start my first company came up when I was, I think, 25. I'm doing the math right, and I quit that job, which is paying me pretty well as a CFO of a $30 million company, and to make zero and start the first company that I got involved with.
At 24 or 25?
25, right in there. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and it's sort of been one after the other. I've done 5 of them. So first one was in real estate. It was a relocation company, and but the last 4 have all been in healthcare. I started a pediatric home care business, started a doctor group that ended up getting acquired by a publicly traded subacute company. Started another analytics company called D2 Hawkeye about 20 years ago. And then DearWalk today with one of my old founders of D2 Hawkeye called me up to start this company, Rudra Pandey, chairman of our company. And the two of us started this in 2010.
So you've been living the glamorous life of entrepreneurship since you were 25 years old.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite call it glamorous.
How would you describe it?
It's a living. It's one of those things that you either have it or you don't. For me, I guess as I would come across risks in my life, I always decided to take the risk. I never shied away from it. And I guess because I always figured when I got to be older and was looking back on my life, I probably wasn't going to say, I wish I didn't take that risk. I'd probably say, I wish I did take that risk. And in fact, I remember when I was the CFO of that dialysis company, I had the chance to get involved with startup. Being an accountant, I did a T account. For those that don't know what that is, you basically make a T and you put the assets or the pros on one side, you put the liabilities or cons on the other. And so I thought, well, if I quit my job to make zero, what could happen? And well, the best thing that could happen is this thing would be wildly successful and I'd be really rich. And could I live with that? And I thought, well, God, yeah, I could live with that. And then I thought, what would be the worst thing that could happen? I thought, well, it'd go bankrupt. It couldn't be worse than going bankrupt.
Right.
So what would happen if it went bankrupt? And I thought, well, I'd probably have to go out and get a job. And I thought, well, what would that job look like? And I thought, well, it would look something like the job I have right now. And then once I realized that I was living the worst case scenario,
ooh,
I'm here to take the risk.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, that's why I ended up, every time I look at it, I realize if I don't take the risk, I'm living the worst case scenario.
Right, right. Wow. So you've launched and I think sold 5 different companies.
I've been co-founder of five, four
Okay.
have sold. This is the fifth.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the fifth.
Okay. So you're running the 5th one right now.
Yeah, it's been 8 years into it. Really having, and actually I would tell you I'm having more fun than I've ever had. I never imagined that. I mean, I really thought I'd be kicking back at this point in my life, not flying 300,000 miles a year, but I'm having the time of my life. So,
Right.
I view this as retirement because this is what I would do if I had anything, the choice of doing anything.
Yeah, yeah. So Jeff, I asked you to come on the show and tell your story because, commercializing an innovation in healthcare is really hard. It's really complex. And I think entrepreneurs and health innovators need to hear more success stories.
Mm-hmm.
And, like we talked about before, it's not the glamorous life, always, maybe sometimes not ever. But, there's always going to be bumps along the road. So tell us a little bit about that. And, what were some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome, thinking about Deer Walk in the last 10 years?
Well, for starters, in the beginning part of the company, Rudra Pandey, our chairman, and I both, were at the prior company. I left, I think, maybe 2 years before he did.
Mm-hmm.
So my non-compete was up. So when we started this company, we had, we had to live with his non-compete.
Right.
So we really just decided to do custom programming.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say this. We started by talking for an entire weekend, for the most part, and trying to figure out what it was we knew how to do. It took an entire weekend to try to figure out what it was we knew how to do, but we kind of came down to sort of two things. We sort of knew how to transform healthcare data. We were pretty good at that. We had done it a lot, more than most people, and we knew how to run an international operation because our prior company, thanks to Rudra, had a big operation in Kathmandu, Nepal. He's a Nepalese born native, and really we knew how to run that. And so everything we've done in this company has sort of been anchored on those two knowledge bases. But we couldn't build anything without risking being sued. So we started just doing custom programming for a year, and then we decided that instead of building a product suite based on database architecture, which is what pretty much everybody in healthcare uses, we decided that we were going to try to apply NoSQL technologies, or what's true big data technologies. If big data and database aren't really in the same sentence, although healthcare people tend to put them in the same sentence. Think of it as search engine technology, and we were going to try to apply that to the healthcare data problem. And to do that, we had to bring in technology. Our CTO comes from outside healthcare. It was a friend of Rudra's, a brilliant young guy that helped us do that. That took 27 months because it wasn't like we just went out and bought a SQL license or an Oracle license and built something. We had to sort of build this entire back end first. And then we got, I'm trying to remember exact dates of this, but we got into it. We got some beta customers going, and we were kind of moving along, and you might remember the Kathmandu earthquake. Mm-hmm. So I woke up one morning. I think it was April 24th. I think it was 2015. It might have been 16. But I remember waking up that morning thinking, this company might be over. I mean, we had our entire operation was over there, and we couldn't find people. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how we dig out of that. And so it took us 6 days to find everybody.
Wow.
Our we did all the kind of the engineering and data processing. Everything stays in the U.S., but people actually running jobs and so forth are in Nepal, and they were gone, and our infrastructure was shot. And what we did was we started working like dogs in the U.S. to keep up the processing for our customers. Thank God it wasn't that big at that time. And we had a big basketball court, an outdoor basketball court in our campus in Nepal. And we built a roof across it and strung wires. And people, we set up workstations in the basketball court covered by a roof, an outdoor basketball court with wires strung to it. And that's where our employees worked until we could rebuild the infrastructure in such a way that we could move back into it. So it was a really, really crazy time. And I mean, 3 of these companies have had moments like that.
Did you think that you were on the brink of, losing the business or going bankrupt? Were you really that rattled?
Yeah. I mean, the D2 Hawkeye, the prior company, just to give you another example, we started that company in August of 2001. We were just getting it off the ground, and I was in a plane heading west on the same kind of planes that went into the tower on 9/11. I thought 9/11 was going to kill that company.
Whoa.
So, yeah, there's, things happen. I think almost every company, people I talk to, they've all had these experiences that you're going to get a test. You're going to get multiple tests, and you just have to find a way, somehow, some way to get through them, for sure.
So how did you overcome that particular experience, or even just, as you look back on your entrepreneurship journey over the last, 30, 40 years, what do you do to stay positive, to stay motivated and encouraged, and, to have the belief and the faith that you're going to be able to overcome some of these things that are, unpredictable? That's not something that you're going to be able to, identify in a business plan of how you're going to overcome those things.
You just have to be positive. You just have to have faith. You have to, so the thing about these things is you see all sorts of people in life who have overcome so many things, and then you look at them and you say, wow, what an amazing person that that they were able to overcome this or that, and frankly, those folks are. But what I would tell you is that anybody else would be like that too if they're maybe not everybody, but if you're put in that situation, something really bad, you have no idea what you're capable of. Yep. Until you're in that situation. And then another gear kicks in. Maybe it's adrenaline. I have no idea, but your mind just starts working and thinking through, okay, where is the daylight? Where, I'm in this darkness. I got to find this little bit of daylight. I've got to focus on the daylight and figure out how to get there. And I've been through it now so many times that every time we get there, but I tell you, your first reaction is this could sink us. It could sink us. And it's kind of like, you're in a sporting event and you're feeling really positive, and, like a football team, and you go out and maybe you're the quarterback, and in the first play, you throw an interception for a touchdown for the other team.
Well, let's not talk about the Saints in the playoffs, okay?
I'm sorry. Look, I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan. I don't talk about anything.
So let's kind of flip the coin a little bit. Yeah. As you think about this, what are some of those things that you think were just game changers for you? As you think about the our listeners who are fellow entrepreneurs that are very likely in the trenches right now, what are some of the things that maybe you came across in your journey to be watchful for? Maybe it was a key customer, a key relationship, something to do with your strategy. What are some of the things that you think were decisions that you made that really impacted your success in ways that maybe you wouldn't have been able to predict?
Well, I always look, when I try to figure out who's going to be the customer, I always think about aggregators. I try to figure out ways I can sell the product to people who already have multiple customers and somehow sell it through them. They've already got relationships because, you know, I either got to hire 25 salespeople to cover the country, or I can hire 1 or 2 people to find people who already have all those customers.
Right.
So in our space today, we have competitors that, so most employers over 250 lives are self-insured. One of our markets is selling into self-insured employers, and Health Analytics to help them analyze what's going on with their employee benefit plans. We have competitors that will knock on the doors of 500 life companies. We don't. I knock on the doors of people who have like third-party administrators, benefit consultants, people like that, who have relationships with them, because I just can't figure out how the math works to try to hire salespeople not every one of those doors. And as a result, we have a little under 100 customers today, but we have I think we added it up. There's just under 14,000 employers in the United States whose health data is on their data is on our application through one of our relationships. Now, we have direct relationships with employers that are, I mean, one's a Fortune 50 company. If I said their name, everybody would know it instantly. But most of them come through one of these other relationships. So understanding how you're going to distribute the product is pretty essential. Years ago, when I was involved with my pediatric home care business, I remember we were getting taken around to some private equity people. And I still can remember this one guy asking me in the early days of the company, "What's your exit strategy?" Exit strategy? I'm still trying to figure out the entrance strategy. What do you mean exit strategy? And so, you know, ultimately you do, I think it's also helpful to figure out, well, what are you building this company for? I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to build it. You could say, I want to build this for my family so my children can be involved with it and so forth. And hopefully it'll be a legacy situation for many years. Or, you know, some people are trying to build it to go public. You know, some people are building it one day, probably going to sell it to a larger organization. I mean, understanding that is important because some of the decisions you make may be different depending on what you believe your exit strategy will ultimately be. Go ahead.
So when we were talking earlier, you were saying that building a business is like raising a child.
It is.
Talk about that.
Yeah, it's because you don't know what it's going to become, right? You don't know what it's become. And even today, you know, we're a mid-market company, which when Amazon said that about us, I thought, my God, I didn't view it as that. This is a, snot-nosed little baby. And so you don't, and one of the most interesting things about building a company is you don't know what it'll become. It's like with children, you try to give them your best advice, but I always felt like it's like trying to manage a snowball rolling downhill. You can't really control where it's going. You can try to keep it from hitting a tree. I think that's kind of what I do is I try to keep our company from hitting a tree. But there's so many moving parts, and the bigger you get, the more moving parts there are, and you keep learning. So I'm very much still learning. This company's getting to be bigger than any of the other. I think it's except for one, but I really wasn't. I was on the board ultimately when it got that big. But this is the biggest that I've been involved with on the management team. So it's challenging to me to see how good I can be in doing this. So, you know, the jury's out on me is what I'll tell you.
Right.
But
just like parents, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'll tell you the reason that, looking back on it over these years, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, I was having lunch with this lady at Denver Children's Hospital when I was out there. And so they had our pediatric business called Kangaroo Kids. And, you know, we were just chit-chatting at the beginning of the lunch, and we were talking about what we had done in the past. And I said, I co-founded that company with a dear friend of mine. And she said, really? She said, we modeled our entire subacute pediatric business off of what you built.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that's why you do this. You don't do this for money. You do this because the money you could lose tomorrow, but nobody can sort of take that away. That feeling that, we did something pretty cool over there, and I'm glad we did. And it's, I guess, similar to the satisfaction as a parent when you see your kids grow up and they're doing fine, and you're proud of them. Very, very similar, I think.
That's great. So the other thing that I wanted to kind of talk about and share with our audience is this idea of thinly capitalizing your companies in startup, right? And really, it sounds like just really functioning with that lean mindset all the way through the evolution and life cycle of the company. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think private equity, particularly for young companies, is more of a curse than a blessing. You have to ask yourself, why are you raising money? Are you raising money so that you can have a salary, a market rate salary? Because, I don't see where that makes a lot of sense for starters. Why do I want to give up equity to somebody to raise money just so I have a salary? I'd rather, in this company, of course, I'm in a little bit different financial situation, starting Deerwalk than I was starting the first one. So this one, I worked for free for 3 years, and so did Rudra, and so did several of our people, because it mitigated the need for capital. So now we're at this size, 92% of our company is owned by employees, and just a small amount by friends and family that we allowed to invest. And for the most part, they asked us to invest. We didn't even ask them. When I was young, my first one, I think my salary was $150 a week. So I just figured out what I could eliminate, from my bills, so that my monthly nut as an individual was as small as possible, and to be able to sustain that for as long as possible, to get the company to the point where eventually it could afford to pay a little bit more. And that's it. And so when you do that, you think of ways to do things that you would not do if you had tons of money. I'll give you sort of one example, kind of simple example. We even at Deerwalk we did this. There's trade shows, there's industry trade shows. If you have a lot of money, you're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars on booths, on all kinds of collaterals, and trying to make a splash at that trade show. And the truth of it is, depending on the trade show, there's so many bigger companies that have massive displays, and nobody even sees yours anyway. So we couldn't afford to, even sign up for the trade shows. So we just go sit in the bar. We'd meet people in the bar. We'd try to set up meetings at the trade show, so all the customers were there. Right. So we simply try to set up meetings. We'd have 15, 20 meetings at a trade show, sitting out in the lobby of the hotel, because it was efficient. You make one plane flight in, you have your hotel room, may have 15, 20 meetings, and fly out. That's how that's one way to save money in an early stage company, and yet still be able to go to these things and see as many people as you can see. But if you look through all parts of your business, you can find all kinds of things you can cut out and figure out some way to try to do it efficiently if you can be creative.
So then let's talk about the efficiency with product strategies. So, a lot of healthcare innovators have a tendency to want to, if they have the resources, to pile every feature and functionality that they can into that innovation. And, I've seen if they raise $1 million, they might be putting 750,000 or more of it into the product. And then really, when it comes to, two different things stand out. One, there's a lot of extra features and functionality that the target market doesn't really even want once it goes to market. And then two, they don't have any resources or extremely little resources to actually commercialize their innovation or go to market. So speak to what your experience was in that process, and what were some of the barriers or obstacles or some of the things that you did that you think influenced your success.
Well, we didn't do that, I guess, for starters.
Right.
We didn't try to build.
That's why we're here having this conversation.
That sounds like a fine way to waste $750,000. We didn't do that. What you have to understand is, I think this is a Mike Tyson quote, is that, a plan and a strategy is great until you get punched in the mouth.
Uh-huh.
And so you just have to realize when you do this, you're going to go out and get punched in the mouth a lot. And so what we do is we have an agile development process. Every time we try to build a product, we look to have what are the very minimum requirements we think to be able to sell it. And that's usually something that we can develop in, say, 90 to 120 days. And then we have a new release every 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. So on our Plan Analytics product, which is sort of a flagship product for us, I think we're on our 85th release now. So, 85 consecutive months of releases. And some of those releases were sort of pre-sale. Even the 90 to 120 days was pre-sale. And then what you got to find are some people, come one way or the other, that are willing to be guinea pigs, mm-hmm. and be willing to be your first customers.
Yep.
And I've always, I don't try to give this stuff away for free, because they'll value it as much as they paid for it.
Sure.
If they're paying you money, they're going to be more critical. They're going to tell you what they do like and don't like. If they're not paying anything, they may not even use it. Mm-hmm. And so what's their incentive to kind of complain and so forth? And people that sort of give you the most grief, which there's a tendency to think, oh, these guys are just, pains in the butt, and, heck with them. No, those are your best customers. They're called your QC departments.
Right.
They're the ones telling you what you're not doing well. So mm-hmm. we have had, some of our early customers still with us. So I just met with one, I guess it was yesterday or the day before, I can't even remember. I'm always so grateful when I meet them, because we had a lot more blemishes, let me put it that way. And they stuck with us, and then you have to listen to them. So they provide, content, and it's good to get, several of these kind of customers, because, somebody might give you some idea and it might be unique to them. You might be going down a rat hole. Whereas if 2 or 3 people are saying the same thing for some feature they'd like to develop, it's also helpful for you to stand back and say, okay, they've asked for this. Does this seem like it's something that would make sense for a broad audience or not? And there's a lot of ways you have to decide what you want to put in your roadmap. Mm-hmm. But I would, I'm a big believer. I wasn't always our CTO. Who I would say this: there's been 2 people in my life that have taught me more than anybody else that I've worked with. He's the one that's younger than me. he's 21 years younger than me, uh-huh. And I've learned more from him than I'm just so blessed he's with us. He's now our COO, and he's the one that I used to argue with about, we're releasing too soon, like these 4-week sprints were too quick. And he convinced me otherwise, and he was absolutely right. Small sprints, achievable, and just keep rolling it out. And so you can kind of pivot when you see opportunities, or if you see you're going down a wrong road. That's kind of the way to go, and that's been the key for what we've done here. I'm sure of it.
It sounds like you're describing like rapid cycle innovation and, this agile methodology in an environment for innovation. So, how do you think that that's really influenced your success if you weren't structured that way and built your entire product development process around that? How do you think that would make a difference for you?
Meaning if we didn't have an agile process?
Yeah, if you weren't doing that cyclical short-term innovation where you're continuously pumping out new innovation, but it's very small and incremental, so you're not ever in a process where you're overdeveloping.
Yeah, well, what I would say is what's great about the reason that I think if you're not doing it this way, you need to convert to doing it this way, because you'll create stuff nobody cares about. Plus, it's sort of let me give you the benefits, the marketing benefits. Let me put from what we do.
Yep.
So every month we've got a new release of features that then we can take out and push out to every prospect of this is what happened this month, and then next month we'll push it out. And what I've seen from we got a brilliant sales team too. Our chief growth officer is, the most talented sales guy I've ever worked with. I feel like I'm in a dugout managing a bunch of superstars, but because I am. But that every month you keep pushing this stuff out, and then the prospects get this sort of fear of being left out, right? Because most of our competitors don't do this.
Right.
They do the every 6 months, every year. So we've got a prospect that we're trying to get business from somebody else. They're seeing nothing new in what they're using. And every month somebody from our company is sending them an update. We're not even hard selling. We just said, hey, just so you know, this is what we did this month. Just so you know, this is what we did this month. And actually, I was on a call this week with a very large prospect for us that we tried for, I think 3 or 4 years ago. We didn't get it. We were too small, really, at that time. Now they come back to us. And so what we did was we put together a PowerPoint of all the features that we've developed every quarter in the couple of 3, 4 years, whatever it's been since they've been with us. And it's like, so this is what you missed out on.
How's that for persuasion?
Yeah. So, but it's one thing to just put a list together, but it's another thing when you because people say, what's your roadmap going forward? I like to say, let me show you what we've done in the last year, because you don't know whether to believe me or not on the roadmap going forward. I'm going to tell you some good stuff going forward, but let me show you what we've done by month over the last year, and you decide whether you think I can roll that out or not. Pretty persuasive argument we found.
So what was it like getting your first customers and, early in the beginning?
Well, you just sort of, you reach, what I do when I start a company is I literally go back through everybody that I know, and I just call everybody I know and tell them what I'm now doing. It's simple as that. I just stay on the phone and, reconnect. And I would say that for every company, your throughout your life, you have to understand that every relationship you're building is not for the thing you're doing at the moment. It's an asset you retain for the rest of your life. And so obviously, as you get older, you have more of those assets, more people to call than when you're younger. But you just call everybody you know, and people will say, "Oh, you need to talk to this person, and you need to talk to that person." And you're going to find people who are open to whatever it is you're doing, as long as you're meeting some sort of market need, because there's going to be somebody that's saying, yeah, I've got something in that area. I'm not really happy with it. Sure, I'll have a look at what you're doing. Or they're saying, I don't have anything. I'd like to see it. So, for example, in our industry, 20 years ago with our prior company, almost everybody I talked to had nothing. So the challenge there was trying to explain to them that they didn't know they had a need because they had nothing. So how did they tell them that there was a need? And now that there's a need, this fits that need.
Right,
and
right.
that was one challenge. By the time we had started this company, which would have been, I guess, 9 years after that, or 9 or 10, the industry had changed. So everybody had something, in part because of what we had built before. Not exclusively us, but we contributed to it. Now we had to go in and say, you already have something. This is better than that thing you already have, including to some people who had bought from me before. So it's kind of like holding a Buick. Now I got a Cadillac, and the Cadillac's better than the Buick that I sold you, and I told you that was the best thing the last time.
Right, right.
And then, and then they'll look at you and say, it's because there wasn't a Cadillac before. The Buick was the best thing the last time. So
great response.
Yeah, there are different challenges, and it'll differ depending on what people are doing. But you'll find there are people out there, there are prospective customers that are early adopters. That's their personality. You've got to find the early adopters from a customer perspective who are willing to take a chance. And they'll try to take, a pound of flesh from you, and you pretty much got to give it up, but I would say don't give it away. Yeah. Get something for it, because otherwise you want them invested in it. But it's just, you just have to work it. There's no magic. So I said, it's not glamorous. You just got to pick up the phone and start calling people. You just got to work.
So as we wrap up here, I have one last question for you. So we've got a lot of listeners out there who are health innovators. They're in startup or early stage mode. What are 2 or 3 lessons or recommendations that you want to share with them that we haven't already talked about, that you recommend for them?
Well, I would say, don't quit, right? It's really easy to quit. Don't quit. Sometimes, you don't know what struggle you signed up for. The first thing I did, I thought we'd know, whether it was a hit or not in 90 days. Well, that was not the case. And in that particular company, it just took a long time to take off. But if you don't quit, you eventually find, and you're adaptable, you'll eventually find success. The second thing is don't get locked into some business plan that says this is how we're going to do it, because the only thing I know about any business plan that's ever been written is it's wrong. It's just wrong, and you don't know what's going to work until you get out there. So you have to be very flexible, including, not getting your ego caught up in it. Like that, well, I thought of this, and by God, this is going to work the way I want it to work. That's not how, that's just not how life works. And the third thing is the people that you surround yourself with, and particularly as you get bigger, the thing that, the quality that I think for me, why I'm able to make this work, is I really hate to lose. And I'm surrounded by people that hate to lose more than I do. And you really have to hate to lose. And as an example of that, I had heard a couple of weeks ago, we have a competitor that somehow I got some feedback that they couldn't figure out why they kept losing to us. And at the C-suite level, I don't know if it's true or not, but at the C-suite level, the feeling is, well, we're just it's coming down to price. We're lowballing the price. That's why we're winning. And I kind of smile at that, because not that that's wrong and they're thinking the wrong thing. It's that I know if you think that, then you don't hate to lose. Because I never think we lost because somebody just underbid us. I think, what did I do wrong? What did we do wrong? What could we do better the next time? And if I'm not doing it, everybody else on our team's doing it, because we just, our feeling is, you might beat us once on something, but it ain't ever happening again. And you just have to have that attitude, because you're going to lose a lot more than you win. We lose a lot more than we win. but you can't make excuses for your losses. The best asset for an entrepreneur is a mirror. You just need to be able to look in the mirror, and because that's usually who's to blame, is the person on the other side of the mirror. And if you do that, you'll kind of have the attitude to persevere.
Yep. Live and learn, right? And be willing to look at ourselves in the mirror. Well, thank you so much for that golden wisdom. It's hard to believe, you and I met 10 years ago, and you've taken this company from, you and your team have taken this company from nothing to today. I know that you have 1 million lives on your platform.
7 million.
7 million. Yeah. And destined for what by the end of this year?
We think about 10. I mean, we know we're going to be over 9, maybe 10 with a little bit of luck. So we'll see.
That's great.
We went from, to give you a perspective of the trajectory, we went over 5 million in October, and we'll be over 7 million in the end of this month.
Congratulations.
So, kind of moving. Yeah, thanks.
And you've stayed really humble, really modest, and you've done a fantastic job.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
So Jeff, as we wrap up here, tell our audience how they can get a hold of you. What's the best way for people to connect with you if there's some innovators out there that want to ask you some, questions in the future?
Oh, sure. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or my email is jgasser, JDASSER @deerwalk.com. Feel free to shoot me an email or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love, talking to people, and I love learning about their businesses anyway. It's fun. So happy to help. If somebody thinks there's something I can do to be of assistance, I'd be happy to help.
Well, and the whole reason we have this show is because we're all in this together, right? And my success is your success, and your success is their success. And it's really going to take all of us to be able to move the needle in healthcare.
It is. And it's fun hearing everybody's story, because there's some really cool stories out there. Yeah,
absolutely. Sure. I'm the lucky one that gets to interview people like you and hear all these stories. Well, thanks for your time, Jeff. Appreciate it. Until next time, everyone. Bye-bye. What's the difference between launching and commercializing a healthcare innovation? Many people will launch a new product. Few will commercialize it. To learn the difference between launch and commercialization, and to watch past episodes of the show, head to our video show page at drroxy.com. Thanks so much for watching and listening to the show. You can subscribe to the latest episodes on your favorite podcast app, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or subscribe to the video episodes on our YouTube channel. No matter the platform, just search COIQ with Dr. Roxy. Until next time, let's raise our COIQ.